Hello again, friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name's Amy, and I'm glad you decided to join me for chapter 63 of the book that I wrote, which is Legends Orbs of the Elements. I hope you are all having a wonderful day. Yes, I am not wearing my t-shirt to match the book cover because I just really felt like I wanted to wear a dress today, and I have some fingerless gloves, and so I just decided to forfeit it today. If you are interested in picking up a copy of this book for yourself, I will be leaving all that fun detail at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. I also will be making another video right after this one because on Thursday I am going to be busy with my apartment is having some maintenance and stuff, so I just need to be home for all that and focused on that. And so I'm just going to be making the next day's video as well, so that's why I'll be wearing the same outfit. So yeah, without further ado, let's just jump right back into this adventure. Chapter 63. Nero magically teleported to his bedchamber. He crashed hard into the post of his bed. Curse the elements, it hurts. He put a hand that was stopping the bleeding down and used his other hand and chanted a healing incantation repeatedly. The heat sensation of his flesh knitted back together was agonizing, but worth it. When the pain eased slightly, he peered down. The bleeding had now come to resemble a newly formed deep scabs. Satisfied, he stormed out of the room in search of his witch. Rifa had been doing a fine job, and she'd be met with Nero's praise. However, Nero was in a foul, unpredictable mood. Out of my way, he rudely growled at her. She quickly obeyed her master without hesitation. Nero gazed in the glass globe intensely. His eyes searched wildly. Both sides were now engaged in bloody battle. Nero spun on his heels sharply to face Rifa. Did you send the Guerrero el Tindros to fight yet? He inquired coldly. Rifa smartly remained silent, but shook her head no. The prince did something that startled her. He laughed merrily. Good! Send all the Ligons and gnomes out first. We'll use the warriors of the dark last. He stormed out of the room without further instructions for Aretha. She could hear his hard, heavy footsteps echo down the hall. Rifa rubbed both of her hands together. She folded her arms and in a cryptic ancient tongue, long forgotten, began to call the warriors of the dark, or the Guerrero Tindrobras, as Nero had referred them. The room began to fill with reddish plumes of colored smoke. The floor started bubbling like a cauldron, where it turned into an oozy, stinking, stenching sludge. Slowly, the sludge divided itself into hundreds of small blobs. There, the blobs divided themselves again and stacked up upon one another like a snowman. Once the round spheres were stacked, the center blob sides were stretched out, and as it was stretched, muscled arms and hands on each arm formed. Then muscles and legs were formed. Rifa magically tossed moss at them, and they were all clothed in appropriate attire and were suited up with armor that had dark engraving patterns on them that resembled barks of trees. She studied one of the dark warriors. He growled in a low, throaty sound. She understood his garbled speech. Yes, we will be marching out very soon. May you kill any and all. So that is all of chapter 63. We will be continuing on with chapter 64. Chapter 64. The four companions met up with the rest of their war party. Before Castilia left, she tossed Nero's rings carelessly on the floor. Things, however, were all topsy-turvy and disorganized as they scurried out of the fortress. There were many birds of prey, both flying and diving, depending on where one looked. They had been killing the ravens along with the other birds. Their bodies littered the ground. Nero had summoned it to attack. Among the bodies of the scavenger birds were the bodies of some of the flyers and elves. Suddenly, there was a small swarm of black smoke which dissipated and turned into gnomes. These were not just any gnomes. Oh no, these were cannibal gnomes. The roar of battle intensified. A loud, thunderous noise shook the ground. Standing on the outer wall were 12 giant Lygons. They roared and leapt down and began wreaking havoc on the warriors below. Leon fought bravely alongside his friends. He heard someone shout, "Now!" Leon only caught a glimpse, but he never erased the image from his mind. Ripplin screamed in pain as he became a beast. It was a grotesque sight, but Leon could not take his eyes from it. Now, standing a short distance away, were the beasts he had met and feared a while back. Many of Nero's soldiers screamed as the beasts entered the fight. With their bodies of wine-colored flesh and long claws, the beasts were no match for the armor Nero's men wore. The massive dragon-like wings moved with their movement like a second set of armored arms. They could also shield their comrades behind their wings if desired. If need be, Their teeth were just as terrifying as their bodies. Their bottom canines grew to resemble more tusks than teeth. Their upper canines grew to the same size and as sharp as their lower canines. As night overtook the land, both armies retreated for the night to tend to their wounds and to regroup. Leon watched with slight envy as Castilia reunited with her older brother. Tears spilled down from her eyes. Seal stood off to the side stoically. Castilia and Seal's eyes met, and she graced him with a short but warm smile. When her brother broke their hug, they approached them. Each ended up giving the other a friendly hug. They took a seat by a cooking fire where Leon was seated. Leon surveyed their camp. The wounded were being tended to. Both horse and elk alike were being rubbed down and tended to as well by the various grooms. So much sorrow and bloodshed. Right then and there, Leon made up his mind. He would finish his task tomorrow before anyone awoke. No more lives need to be wasted. Leon was brought out of his thoughts by Seal sharpening his blade using a stone called a wedding stone. His hand glided up and down as he used the wedding stone. The stone and the blade made a gentle scraping sound. The noise added to the ambience of the crackling, snapping cooking fire. Leon caught the tail end of Jacob retelling Castilia about how he freed the elves. By the look on Castilia's face, she was equally as proud as she was impressed by her brother's efforts, and half hugged and shoved him playfully. As happy at seeing her brother was safe, she picked up the sense that Leon was not quite himself. Not that she could really blame him for being quiet after the horrors that they had witnessed today. "Leon, are you okay?" she asked timidly. Leon sighed a tired sigh, but didn't say a word. Castilia and the others didn't press him. He ran a hand through his golden mane-like hair. "I don't think I've been okay for a long time. I I killed men. I actually took one life away from another, he said, looking more lost than before. All three legends stole a glance at one another. They knew how grave and serious killing another could be, even if it was against their enemy. Nero's men were at the end of the day still men just following orders. It weighed heavy on their conscience and hearts each time they took a life. It was only slightly different when they were up against someone who wielded dark magic. The person who was corrupt in the heart and needed to be put down. Not that that was an excuse to enjoy killing, just more justifiable in the sense that they were ridding the dark energy or dark magic, depending on how one looked at it. Leon was more accustomed to killing animals, seeing he was a hunter and didn't have issues with it. He hunted for food and didn't waste any part of the animal. Both Seal and Jacob got up. Seal was putting his wedding stone back in his pocket. We're going to get something to eat. You two want anything? Leon shook his head and stared into the fire. Castilia nodded. Bring me back one of everything. You know how I like elven cooking. Her brother winked. She mouthed to her brother to bring a plate for Leon anyway. Once the two strolled away, Castilia took a seat closer to Leon and crossed her legs. She put a comforting hand on his shoulder. I could have saved him, Castilia, but I couldn't. Now Leon's eyes filled with tears, and he turned his face from his friend. Castilia was heartbroken to see her friend weeping. When he got control of himself, he glanced at his female friend with lost expression written upon his face. She closed her eyes for a moment, trying to find the right words. She opened her eyes again and took his hand in hers. He looked at their joined hands briefly, and Castilia spoke. My friend, we all freeze up at different times, but oh, excuse me. My friend, we all freeze up at different times, but I am sure the time is right. You will be able to accomplish it. Leon looked up at the starry sky. Castilia studied her friend's face for a few minutes before tapping his shoulder. Out with it. I know that look. You want to say something, so just say it. Leon couldn't help it and put a small smile on his face. She did know him that well indeed. His smile faded as he said, Castilia, whatever happens tomorrow, well. He paused and pressed on. Would you tell my mother I love her? Castilia raised a suspicious eyebrow while crossing her arms across her chest. Instead of answering him directly, she gave her own reply. What are you up to, Hunter? He could not meet her look. Leon rolled up his sleeves to do something, and was able now to glance at his friend. Nothing. We stick to the plan that Oakland and Ripland gave us. Castilia still had a doubtful look on her face and was about to open her mouth to protest when Miggletoura strode up to them. Castilia greeted the elven king in her legend way. He nodded at the respectful gesture. Miggletoura looked at Leon and shook his head. The elven man then told them he wished to speak to Castilia. They had a short conversation in Elvish. Leon watched as she now smiled and nodded in agreement. The male elf left then, went on his way. Oakland came up to them next. He carried a bowl of stew and was wolfing it down. He set the bowl down and spoke. Bless the elements, it is you, Castilia. Thought we lost you, and gave her a fast wink. His voice sounded tired, but happy. She greeted him with a bow and hands together like one does in prayer, like she had done with Megaltura. Nay, Nero could never hold me, my friend. She took in the few bandages on his arms and legs. Leon and Castilia stole concerned glances at each other. Oakland was not fooled. He shrugged it off. Leon now stood next to Oakland. A moment of awkward silence came upon them. Leon then blurted out, "I need to speak with you alone. It's important." Oakland was slightly taken aback by this. Castilia looked concerned. "All right, lad. Best come with me. I know a quiet place to speak with me." Castilia watched as the two men left. What was Leon up to? Why wasn't he bringing her into the fold with him? She just hoped Leon would be safe and trusted he knew what he was doing. She turned her attention back to the fire. Ripplin saw how distressed she appeared and slowly approached her. "May I join you?" he asked, with a bit of hesitation in his voice. She just bobbed her head and gestured to an empty spot by the fire. He warmed his hands. "I need to talk to you," she said, with a sad, serious tone to her voice. Leon and Oakland went to where it wasn't so noisy. Oakland spoke in a way that reminded him of his father. "Speak now. I promise I won't interrupt." This gave Leon some confidence. "One of your flyers. I tried to interfere. Rifa and I fought, but Leon trailed off. Oakland peered into the stars and closed his eyes, only to reopen them a second later. "Leon, Hunter of the Orbs, I thank you for telling me this. He was a great flyer and a dear friend. He will be missed greatly." Leon stared at Oakland. Oakland was king, a ruler over his race. He could order his soldiers to punish Leon. However, the only thing the king wanted to do was thank Leon. Oakland was, however, the only thing the king wanted to do was thank Leon. Oakland didn't tear up. The king of the flyers didn't even seem all that concerned that a fellow flyer was dead. How could he push those emotions to the side as if they didn't rip out his heart? He put a comforting hand on Leon's shoulder. "You look distressed. I am not aware of what's going on in that head of yours, but please don't blame yourself for my flyer's death. He is at peace." Leon did his best to keep his emotions in check. He turned sideways while wiping his face on his sleeve. "It's such a struggle, and one can't help but feel powerless when one of your own falls in war," Leon said, grief-stricken. Oakland crossed a foot over the other foot and leaned up against a tree. "Oh, aye, my lad, those are true words. As king, I can assure you I carry that burden every time we go to battle. I am sure Migiltura feels likewise for those we lose in battle. Aye, it's true, we put on a front at times to mask our emotions, because when we see a fallen comrade, our hearts break just as much because we are the ones who have to go back home and tell their loved ones they aren't coming home, and it is a burden. I despise doing it. That is why I am very strict about those I choose to be in my army. Only the strong, brave are selected." Here he paused, and it appeared he was collecting his thoughts before continuing. "Being brave and courageous means that they may be scared, but they do it anyway. It means putting their needs ahead of their own. It means putting Leon listened to the wisdom and insight of being king. He never wanted to become one, The burden they carried was too deep. The two shook hands after they parted ways. The two shook hands after, then parted ways. So that is all of chapter 64 for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you are interested in purchasing this book for yourself or for a friend, it can be found on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, Apple iBooks, and lots of other places books are sold. And if you are, again, just interested in finding out more details about how I created this story and the book and characters and all that fun stuff, I have a Facebook page called Legends Orbs of the Elements. There I try to write an article Monday through Friday about all of the stuff I just previously said. I try to keep them as spoiler free as possible, so if you want to continue on listening to the story but want to know how I crafted the characters and setting, you guys will not be disappointed. So if you like this video, please give it a big like, subscribe, share with friends and family, and as they say in my book, may the elements protect you, and I will see you guys tomorrow for another chapter. Bye-bye for now, everybody.